In the early 2010s, if you were a tween girl with Wi-Fi and a flat iron, Victoria Justice was it. She was the face on your locker, the voice behind your ringtone, and the poster child for About to Blow Up. She wasn't just another Disney clone. No, Victoria was Nickelodeon's answer to Miley, Selena, and Demi, a triple threat with perfect hair and zero scandals. She could sing, she could act, and she had the kind of Disney clean, pageant-polished charisma that made parents say she seems like a nice girl. But what no one realized at the time was Victoria Justice was being built in a factory. Not literally, though with Dan Schneider behind the wheel, you wouldn't be shocked, but the machine was obvious. Victoria didn't arrive in Hollywood with a personal brand or an underground buzz. She arrived the way so many mid-2000s girls did, through Zoe 101, playing the cool, quirky new roommate in Season 2. And from there, it was full speed ahead. She got her own show, her own soundtrack, her own fake boy band romance rumors. Nickelodeon was pushing her so hard they practically gift-wrapped her in glitter and handed her to the youth of America on a lunch tray. Victorious wasn't just a TV show, it was an industrial product. The same way Ariana Grande was introduced as the ditzy redhead sidekick, Victoria was presented as the star you were told to love. And for a while, it worked. She was everywhere. Red carpets, magazine covers, YouTube thumbnails of every 12-year-old's karaoke upload. She performed on the Kids' Choice Awards stage like it was her Coachella. And at the time, we all believed this was just the beginning. She had the look, she had the pipes, she had that warm, safe, non-threatening charisma that made her seem like the sweet girl in math class who could still pull off sparkly leggings. But there was one thing Victoria didn't have. One tiny, crucial, career-defining element missing from her next big thing starter pack. She didn't have an edge. And Hollywood eats nice girls for breakfast. She wasn't chaotic like Lindsay, mysterious like Selena, or feral like early Demi Lovato. She didn't have an online meltdown, a viral tweet, a leaked demo that accidentally showed range. She just worked hard, took notes, smiled in interviews, did what Nickelodeon told her to do. In other words, she played the game. But the game changed without her. Because while Victoria was being carefully posed under stage lights and auto-tuned into radio-friendly singles, another girl was lurking in the shadows of her own show. A girl with a 4-octave range, a red wig, and a growing army of Tumblr stans. And that girl was about to change everything. Here's the thing about being the star of the show. It only works as long as everyone agrees you're the star. For a while, Victoria Justice was that girl. Her name was literally in the show's title. Victorious was supposed to be a rocket ship. The plan was clear. She'd do the TV show, get a record deal, headline a tour, maybe snag a couple rom-coms by age 22. You know, the standard blueprint. But somewhere along the way, that blueprint got hijacked. Enter Ariana Grande. At first, Ariana was just the sidekick, the quirky one, the girl with the crimson wig, squeaky voice, and a few sassy one-liners per episode. But behind the scenes, she was brewing a takeover. Ariana had the voice. Everyone could hear it, even if the scripts weren't built to showcase it. She was doing YouTube covers in her spare time, gaining a cult following with every whistle note. And when the fan demand got loud enough, Nickelodeon couldn't ignore it. Neither could Victoria. What followed wasn't a full-blown public catfight, but it might as well have been. Let's talk about the feud, or at least the alleged one. Because when Victorious suddenly ended in 2013, fans were confused. The ratings were still decent, the fandom was growing, and yet, boom, gone. Cancelled with no warning, no movie, no finale, just silence. Then came Ariana's tweet. The now legendary digital subtweet that launched 1,000 stan wars. She said, and we quote, open quote, "Sweetheart, the only reason Victorious ended is because one girl didn't want to do one last season." Close quote. Now, she didn't name names, but she didn't have to. Every fan with a Tumblr account knew who she meant. And Victoria? She clapped back live on the red carpet with one of the most unintentionally meme-worthy moments of her career. Open quote, "I think we all sing," close quote. And just like that, the internet picked its sides. Ariana was on the rise, effortlessly charming, vocally untouchable, and seemingly above the drama. Victoria? She looked defensive, jealous, a little too main character energy in a world that had already chosen a new lead. And here's the hard truth. Once the optics turn on you in Hollywood, it's nearly impossible to flip the script back. Even if there wasn't a real feud, the perception stuck. Ariana went on to release her debut album, become the next pop princess, and date a series of tabloid-friendly bad boys. Victoria released a few singles, did a couple teen movies, made the rounds at charity events, but the spotlight, it had already moved. And here's where it gets even messier. There were rumors that Victoria tried to pivot to music around this time. Not a bad idea. Multi-hyphenates were in. But while Ariana's vocals melted faces, Victoria's music felt manufactured, overproduced, forgettable. Her singles didn't chart. The tour never materialized. And once Ariana and Jeanette McCurdy got their Sam and Cat spin-off without her, it was like Nickelodeon quietly erased her from their legacy lineup. In the pop culture court of public opinion, Victoria wasn't the villain. She was something arguably worse. She was the girl who lost the part. Whether or not she deserved it didn't matter. The narrative had written itself. And the role of future superstar had been recast in real time. So the curtain closes on Victorious. Ariana takes off like a rocket. And Victoria? Well, she does what every ex-teen star does when the gig ends. She tries to go mainstream. And to be fair, that's not easy. Plenty of former Nickelodeon and Disney stars crash during this exact phase. You either stick the landing, like Zendaya, you go fully rogue, like Miley Cyrus, or you fade into, oh yeah, whatever happened to them, territory. Unfortunately for Victoria, she ended up in that third category. Let's walk through her post-Victorious acting career and really get into what went wrong. Because this wasn't just a single bad project. This was a pattern. A slow unraveling of someone who had all the pieces, but no clear plan. Her first big attempt was a movie called Fun Size, back in 2012. It was supposed to be her crossover moment, her big screen debut. Produced by Nickelodeon Films, it starred Victoria as a teen girl stuck babysitting her little brother on Halloween night. It was trying to be Superbad for tweens. But here's the problem. It wasn't funny. It wasn't edgy. And Victoria, she was fine. That's the most damning part. She didn't embarrass herself, but she didn't pop either. And in a sea of rising starlets, you need to pop. Critics panned the film. Audiences didn't show up. The box office was lukewarm at best. Victoria was supposed to come out of this looking like the next Emma Stone. Instead, she looked like a girl in the wrong movie. By 2015, she tried something a little riskier. MTV gave her the lead role in a cyber thriller series called Eye Candy, where she played a hacker hunting down serial killers. Think Pretty Little Liars meets CSI, with a splash of budget techno-thriller energy. And you know what? Victoria actually wasn't bad. The show had a decent pilot, a stylish look, and some real promise. But the writing was clunky. The pacing was all over the place, and MTV wasn't exactly known for nurturing prestige drama. Ratings fell off fast. Fans couldn't tell if the show wanted to be sexy or scary or social commentary. And after just 10 episodes, it was cancelled. Done. Victoria's dark reinvention was over before it even started. Around this time, Victoria started flirting more seriously with music. She released a few singles, most notably Gold and Shake, but none of them charted. The sound was generic, polished, but soulless, like they'd been engineered in a lab for tween appeal. No edge, no risk, no identity. Compare that to what Ariana was doing at the time, releasing Problem, Break Free, working with Max Martin. Victoria, meanwhile, was putting out tracks that sounded like rejected Victorious B-sides. And this wasn't new for her. Victoria had always straddled the actor or singer line. But after 2015, it became painfully clear she couldn't do both well enough to survive in either industry. This exact trap has snared so many child stars. Ashley Tisdale tried it. Bridget Mendler tried it. Even Hilary Duff hit the wall eventually. You can't be a pop girl and an actress unless you're a full-blown star. And Victoria? She never locked in either identity. She also did a Netflix movie called Naomi and Ely's No Kiss List. Let's just call this one what it was, YA fluff that didn't work. It had the Netflix name, which felt promising, but this was before Netflix became a content powerhouse. Back then, they were still experimenting. And this movie felt like an awkward middle school diary, quirky, forced, and tonally confused. Victoria played Naomi, a girl who falls for the same boy as her gay best friend. On paper, cute premise. In execution, cheap lighting, shallow writing, and a vibe that screamed, we want to be indie, but we're afraid of real stakes. Fans barely noticed it dropped. Critics didn't even bother reviewing it. It wasn't a career move. It was content. Then came the Rocky Horror Picture Show remake on Fox. This one should have been a win. Victoria was cast as Janet in the reboot. It had a high-profile cast, Laverne Cox, Ryan McCartan, Adam Lambert. It was Fox's big attempt at a musical event. But reviews were savage. Hardcore fans hated it. They thought it was too sanitized, too PG, too Nickelodeon. Victoria tried her best. Her voice wasn't the issue, but she just didn't sell it. Janet is supposed to be dorky, but eventually sexy and liberated. Victoria's version still felt like Tori Vega in a Halloween costume. It's harsh, but honest. She felt miscast in her own reinvention. And over again, this was the pattern. Pretty girl, safe roles, no heat. Cute leads in forgettable movies, slightly darker characters in shows no one watched. She was there, she was fine, but she never took the leap. No bold character turns, no gritty indie dramas. She never went ugly or scary or funny or offbeat, the kind of roles that force people to take you seriously. Compare her to Zendaya, who chose Euphoria, or Kristen Stewart, who leaned all the way into weirdo arthouse films. Even Lindsay Lohan, for all her chaos, took real risks in the early days. Victoria played it safe, and the industry forgot her. And here's where it really stings. There were so many roles she could have nailed, roles that could have changed everything. She had the look, the voice, and the presence to pull off Emily in Paris. That show needed someone bubbly but slightly awkward, sweet but aspirational. Victoria would have fit like a glove, and probably added a little more range than what we got. The Duff, where Mae Whitman played the quirky outcast. If Victoria had gone against type and embraced the weird, it could have flipped her image in one stroke. Same with something like Easy A. Had she landed a supporting role in a smart teen comedy, she might have earned real credibility. Scream Queens? She had the glam and the deadpan for it. Ryan Murphy would have known how to weaponize her Nickelodeon sweetness and make it twisted. Even something like Riverdale, chaotic as that show was, she could have slid in as a calculating villain or a misunderstood queen bee and made it iconic. On the movie side, think about the young adult wave of the 2010s. She could have been a great Glimmer or Clove in the Hunger Games, someone sweet on the surface with a flash of crazy. She could have done well in a supporting role in Pitch Perfect, or even auditioned for the Anna Kendrick role if she'd committed hard enough to the music nerd angle. A Netflix rom-com like To All the Boys I've Loved Before. She could have killed in a Lana Condor-style role if she'd leaned into softness and heart. Even something like Baby Driver, quirky, stylized, youthful. If she'd ever had the right team pushing her into film festival-adjacent roles, her entire career could have shifted. But she didn't pivot, she didn't rebrand, she didn't challenge herself, she lingered. And in Hollywood, lingering is a slow death. After Victorious ended, You'd think Victoria would immediately pivot to the kinds of star-making roles that turned Emma Stone into a darling or Zendaya into a phenom. But no, her post-Nickelodeon filmography reads less like a victory lap and more like a scattershot game of where's the script. Let's talk about the outcasts. This should have been her Mean Girls moment. The setup had promise. High school losers plotting revenge on the popular crowd, edgy teen energy, a little rebellion, and a perfect stage for Victoria to show a darker comedic bite. But instead of biting, it barely nibbled. Critics called it aggressively unfunny, and Victoria's performance? Fine. Safe. Serviceable. The movie didn't break her, but it certainly didn't build her either. The only thing outcast about it was how quickly it got buried under other forgotten teen comedies on streaming. Then came Bigger, a 2018 biopic about the brothers behind the Mr. Olympia bodybuilding empire. Sounds niche? That's because it was. Victoria played Kathy Wider, the supportive wife role, in what was supposed to be a serious adult movie. But her part was small, the script was wooden, and the only thing that got bigger was the yawns from viewers. Victoria tried to flex her dramatic muscles, but the role gave her little to work with. This wasn't a leap, it was a careful tiptoe, and one that barely made a splash. Now Summer Night, released in 2019, tried to be indie cool. The kind of ensemble coming-of-age film where all the hot 20-somethings wander around having deep thoughts and soft lighting. Victoria's role was there. Present. It's hard to say more than that. The film didn't generate buzz, didn't find an audience, and didn't give Victoria the kind of standout monologue or moment that could have gone viral. She blended in so much, she might as well have been scenery. Then came Trust in 2021. This was her attempt at something a little steamier, a sleek romance meets thriller, where a woman suspects her husband of cheating while maybe doing a little extracurricular activity herself. This could have been a turning point. Victoria, in a mature, edgy role with real emotional range? Yes, please. Except no. Trust felt more like a CW pilot that didn't get picked up. The film tried for mystery, but landed on melodrama, and Victoria's performance, while polished, never got messy or raw enough to stick. It wasn't a crash, it just barely registered. But then came Afterlife of the Party, and this one, weirdly, did register. Released by Netflix in 2021, Victoria starred as a party girl who dies, becomes a ghost, and must make spiritual amends before moving on. Think Casper meets Legally Blonde. The movie leaned full tilt into cheese, and shockingly, it kind of worked. It wasn't a critical darling, but fans liked her in it. Victoria was charming, bubbly, and, finally, memorable. This wasn't her Oscar role, but it gave people a reason to say, oh wait, she's still around? For a hot minute, it seemed like she might just ride that goodwill into a comeback. And Netflix even tried to help with the perfect pairing, a wine country rom-com where Victoria plays a wine exec who falls for a hot Australian sheep farmer. Not joking, that was the plot. She was trying so hard to do the Hallmark to Hulu crossover strategy that worked for Vanessa Hudgens. But the movie was flatter than a corked bottle of Shiraz, and her chemistry with the lead was barely room temperature. Then came The Tutor, a psychological thriller where she played a rich, manipulative girlfriend caught in a twisted game between her boyfriend and his tutor. This was supposed to show range. Something tense, dramatic, morally grey. But it was all style, no substance. And once again, Victoria's role felt thin. The kind of performance that lives entirely in raised eyebrows and dramatic pauses. Depravity, a lesser-known title, tried to be a gritty indie horror mystery. But it had no marketing, no buzz, and no impact. By the time it dropped, even her fans weren't sure it existed. And now there's California King. The title alone sounds like a failed perfume line. This one was meant to be a quirky stoner comedy with a chaotic plot involving beds, drugs, and salesmen. She took on a supporting role, which at this point felt symbolic. She was no longer being cast as the lead. Not even the love interest. Just around. And here's where the sadness creeps in. None of these movies were complete disasters, but none of them made her shine. They didn't give her room to break type, to get raw, to command the screen. And that's the tragedy of Victoria Justice's career. She didn't take big swings, and Hollywood forgot she was at bat. Could it have been different? Absolutely. Imagine Victoria in the Gossip Girl reboot instead of some of those painfully miscast newcomers. She had the looks, the edge, and the social media following. Or picture her in Emily in Paris as a sharper, sassier, slightly more grounded lead. She could have nailed that blend of fashion, comedy, and eye-rolling millennial awkwardness. Or what if she'd taken the Zoe Kravitz route and done something weird and indie, like High Fidelity? Even guest starring on something buzzy like Euphoria could have changed the narrative. She needed a little grime, a little darkness, something real. Or better yet, imagine her as Wednesday Addams instead of Jenna Ortega. Wild idea? Maybe. But she has the deadpan, the eyes, the timing, and it could have flipped her entire career into cult icon status. But instead, she drifted. Playing it safe, saying yes to the kind of roles that don't make headlines. They just fill content slots on streaming platforms. Victoria Justice didn't crash and burn. She coasted. And in Hollywood, coasting is just a slower way of disappearing. So where does that leave Victoria Justice? She's not cancelled. Not disgraced. Not in rehab. Not even particularly controversial. She just faded. Not in a dramatic Hollywood meltdown, but in a quiet, slow-motion slide into irrelevance. And maybe that's the most brutal fate of all for a former teen star who once had the stage, the spotlight, and the screaming fans. Because for a while there, she was it. She had the hair, the face, the voice, the show, the network. Nickelodeon built their brand around her. She was the one. And then, the industry shrugged and said, "We're good." Some people blamed the feud with Ariana Grande. And sure, the optics weren't great. The press tour shade, the castmates gushing over Ari while giving Victoria the polite silence treatment. But the truth is, Ariana went nuclear with her vocals. She could sing circles around almost anyone in the industry. She wasn't just a pop star, she was a vocal event. And when you're standing next to a hurricane, it's easy to get mistaken for a breeze. Victoria tried to be both a singer and an actress, but she never quite chose a lane. And when you're trying to build two careers at once in the most competitive industry on earth, you can't afford to be lukewarm at either. You have to commit, and commit hard. Instead, her music fizzled out before it even started. Her acting roles were too safe, too scattered, too soft around the edges. She didn't take a risk, and Hollywood doesn't wait for anyone to catch up. The tragic part? She could have nailed bigger roles. She has it. That polish, that sparkle, that screen presence you can't fake. But she needed a team, a vision, and a breakout part that made people sit up and say, "Wait, that's Victoria Justice?" Instead, she became a cautionary tale. Like so many Nickelodeon and Disney girls who tried to be double threats. Remember Debbie Ryan's music career? Or Bridget Mendler's brief pop moment? Even Hilary Duff got stuck in career limbo until she leaned into motherhood and millennial nostalgia. It's a common trap, being good at a lot of things, but not great at any one of them. And in an industry that eats its young and replaces them every pilot season, good just isn't good enough. But here's the thing. Victoria Justice doesn't seem miserable. She's not desperate, not begging for clout, not spiraling in tabloids. She still shows up to red carpets looking gorgeous, still posts to Instagram with that same bright smile and perfectly filtered glow. She seems fine. And maybe fine is what she wants. Maybe she dodged the machine, the breakdowns, the rehab stints, the tabloid circus. Maybe she never wanted to be a pop icon or an Oscar winner. Maybe she just wanted to act, sing a little, stay pretty, and live her life on her terms. And if that's true, then maybe Victoria Justice didn't flop. Maybe she ghosted us. And in a business that swallows people whole and spits out broken pieces, that might just be the biggest plot twist of all. If you made it this far, first of all, you deserve a round of applause and a cupcake. Second, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next deep dive into the rise and fall of your favourite almost A-listers, former teen queens, or forgotten heartthrobs. And tell me in the comments, which celebrity should we unpack next? Should we talk about someone who disappeared after one iconic role? Someone whose comeback failed spectacularly? Or maybe someone who's still out there pretending it's 2012? Drop your requests below, spill the tea, and as always, thanks for watching.